Well, it's early, but the Blue Jays have the makings of one of the top teams in the American League. Hey, everyone, welcome into another edition of Long Ball. Rob Wong joined alongside by Toronto Sun Blue Jays beat writer Rob Longley. And Rob, a tough last couple of games for the Blue Jays, but they are still sitting well above 500 as we record this video. What have you liked from the team so far this season?
Well, there's been a fair bit to like so far, Rob. Obviously, they've put together a pretty good record with a tough schedule, a lot of road games so far, and starting the season, of course, on a 10-game road trip. But I think with the likes, you've got to start with Bo Bichette. He's had two five-hit games already. He's got more hits than anybody else in the American League, which is following up on what he did each of the last two seasons. And he's just been sensational, really, at the plate. He leads the team in home runs and hits, obviously, and really is the driver of that offense. And not far behind him is Matt Chapman, who is having a terrific year. The third baseman made it a priority in the offseason to contribute more offensively, and he's done that and more. He's one of the leaders in many of the offensive categories in the American League so far, in fact, in all of MLB. And so when you look at what those two guys have done, it's like they haven't really had a whole lot of contributions up and down the lineup. Whit Merrifield has been solid. Vlad Guerrero Jr. has been good, but not superstar material just yet. So really, I think offensively, you look at what Bo Bichette and Matt Chapman are doing to drive that bus, and they've been a lot better defensively. You know, that was one of the priorities going into the season. We've seen it with play in the outfield, where they're probably one of the best defensive outfields in all of baseball. They've tightened up that way. And I've also liked their ability to sort of grind their way through games. This is a team that you hate to use the cliche never quits, but they really, they never feel like they're out of a ball game. We've seen them win ball games in tight ways, the types of games that they often lost last season. So plenty of like so far, still a work in progress as we approach 30 games. We haven't seen their best yet, but certainly a lot of potential and so far some solid results.
Well, speaking of guys that we haven't seen their best from, Brandon Belt is striking over 40% of the time right now. Rob, if you're the Blue Jays, what do you do with one of your big offseason pickups?
Yeah, that's got to be a real conundrum right now for the front office and even for manager John Schneider. We saw it situationally this week when late in the ball game with runners on scoring position in Boston and a chance for a go-ahead run. They pinch hit for him. I mean, and that's not what you want from your designated hitter. That's not what you want from a guy you paid more than $9 million for to be essentially contributing on offense and nothing else. And he was pinch hit for Alejandro Kirk, who hasn't exactly been lights out at the plate himself. So what do you do with him? I think at this point, because it still is early and because the options aren't plenty at this point, you keep running him out and hope that he snaps out of it and um, develop some sort of reasonable form that he can contribute offensively. The DH position across baseball is an important position. I mean, you have to have guys who contribute, guys who can drive in runs from there, and he hasn't been doing that other than a couple of games where he's had a little bit of success. We've seen a ton of swing and miss from him, which for me is the most alarming thing. It reminds me a little bit of Travis Shaw, who the Jays had a couple of years ago, and for whatever reason, it hit that point of his career where he wasn't able to contribute. So early days yet. I think you keep running him out there for a little while. But while you're doing that, you start to consider the other options at the DH spot.
Well, like you said, still a long way to go in this season, but the Blue Jays off to a nice little beginning in the first month and a bit. As always, you can find Rob's Blue Jays coverage at the Toronto Sun or on Twitter at Longley Sun Sport.